Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zack, and for the last week I've been driving the 2026 Subaru Solterra Touring XT. Below me are two electric motors powering this all-electric Subaru. Now I am super excited to be sharing this video with you here today because there are a lot of updates here for the 2026 model year. I actually don't know the price because at the time of reviewing, the week that I've had this car, Subaru hasn't even announced the pricing on it yet. You can't find these at dealers yet, which has been super exciting to be able to drive around and show people what is new for the 2026 model year Subaru Solterra. But if you'd like to submit your own vehicle and have it reviewed here on the channel, you can head on over to my website, zackbradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out, and I come out to you. And if you'd like to see all my videos weeks or sometimes months in advance, you can head on over to my Patreon for only $5 a month. But let's talk about what's new for the 2026 model year. Well, the first thing you'll notice right off the bat, it looks different. This has gotten a facelift, different headlights, things like that. Relatively minor in the grand scheme of things, but a nice little refresh. But the big thing you'll want to talk about is the power and the range. The range has gone up from 222 miles to 278 miles, although you can get lower trims, smaller wheels, a little bit more aerodynamic. That will actually go 288 miles per charge. That is a huge increase over the abysmal and laughable 222. With that, there's also a power increase from 215 horsepower to 338 horsepower. So it has gained well over 100 horsepower, which is lovely to see and even more lovely to use. As well as the biggest talking point possibly is the fact that the Subaru Solterra is now on the North American Standard plug, meaning Tesla plug, for charging. This is going to open up a lot more chargers, a lot larger charging network when out and about, and I'll talk about my thoughts with that towards the end. Like I said, it is a dual motor all-wheel drive vehicle. You cannot get the Solterra without the dual motor all-wheel drive. However, if you really want to pinch your pennies, the Toyota version of this, the BZ, does come in a front motor, single motor format that will be more affordable. This has a 74.7 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery, and like I said, it is all-wheel drive. But how does it feel to drive the Subaru Solterra? Much, much better than the outgoing 2025. That power is noticeable. Now, that is a jump. The Touring XT is a new trim level, and so that horsepower comes with that XT. You can find Subaru Solterras with less horsepower, but they used to all have the same. Now you can actually get a trim level that has more, which is the XT. Traditionally, we've seen the XT name. Well, back in the 80s, there was the Subaru XT, but that's usually meant turbo. We had Forester XTs and Outback XTs and things like that were commonly associated with having more power than normal. So that's the thinking there. The ride quality is nice, it's quick enough, it drives like an EV, and it doesn't feel too heavy, which of course is nice to feel. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a completely digital gauge cluster. This is shared with a lot of Toyota products. I don't love it. I think it's a little bit messy. I think that there's a lot of information kind of being thrown at you. However, you might like this. I personally just don't. On the steering wheel on the left, we do have our phone options, selectors, volume, and voice commands, and off to the right, we have adaptive cruise, as well as our skip track and mode. Off to the left, we do have our gauge dimmer switch and trip odometer, as well as our automatic high beams, tailgate release, and headlight washers. Interestingly enough, this actually gets headlight washers, and I had to set up the camera to figure out where they come from. It's not really where you'd expect. Kind of interesting. Moving out of the door, we do have our 2 levels of memory seats, power mirrors, power locks, and power windows. And moving into the center, we get our giant infotainment display. This does have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. It does have our climate controls, dual zone climate in here. And the camera system is a 360 camera. The one downside is that this center screen does dominate the interior. There is nothing else you could look at, see, or feel in the interior just because there's so much screen. And again, this is borrowed from Toyota, as pretty much this entire interior is. The steering wheel is from the Prius. Where the odometer is, all of this, if you're familiar with Toyota, you will feel very familiar with this. Down below that screen, we have 2 climate control vents as well as our hazard switch. We get dual phone chargers, very nice to see here for 26. And then we have a couple of buttons in the center. So obviously in the middle of all of that, we have the shifter. Kind of a weird way to shift it, but it works. And off to the left, we have our camera view button, power parking brake, and brake hold. And off to the right, we have our drive mode select as well as X mode. So for that 4-wheel drive, you can put it into snow and dirt or deep snow and mud. The drive modes are power, eco, and normal, and our traction control is standard. Then we do have cup holders. We'll do a big freaking bottle test. It fails. Want. Then we get our center console and the seats. The seats are heated, ventilated, power, and memory, and they're pretty comfortable enough. They do have this leather feeling to them. I think they work relatively well. I've done a couple 100 miles in this vehicle, and I haven't had any back pain or weird tweaks in my L4, L5. So that's good to see. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 2026 Subaru Solterra, and much like the outgoing, not really outgoing model because it was just a facelift that they did, back seat space is fantastic. My knees are not hitting the seat in front of me, my head's not hitting the ceiling, and I would say that this seat is actually a little bit further back than my normal driving position. So very nice to see that. We do have heated seats down here, we have USB-C chargers, we have climate vents, and we do have a center console in here. We have lights that are LED, very nice to see all of that, and we get to enjoy the nice moonroof. Nothing too crazy beyond all of that, but I fit very, very well. If you have full-size adults that you're gonna drive around, they're gonna fit back here very, very easily. So, very good from that standpoint. Let's hop into the very back. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, we're on the back of the Subaru Solterra. There's a little button here, and it is a power-operated tailgate, which is very nice to see. Once we are back here, we do have a wall outlet. Absolutely love that. Super, super helpful. You can turn that on and off right there. You do get your Harman Kardon speaker around here, and you can pull this up. You have some extra chargers and whatnot around the back, and a privacy cover that you could pull out. Overall, this is plenty of space, on par with vehicles like the RAV4. I would honestly say more than the RAV4, more than the CX-5, which is very, very nice to see. You could come up here and either lock it and close it, or just close it like that. Very nice, smooth, calm, and collected. Now we got to talk about the looks, and I do like the look of the 2026 Subaru Solterra. As I mentioned, they have updated it for the 26 model year. Looks a little bit different. Once we finish this walk around, I'll show you the original Solterra. I think I reviewed a 22 or 23 Solterra, and I'll compare it side by side with the 26. So here's the 23, here's the 26, here's the 23, here's the 26, here's the 23, here's the 26. So that should give you a decent idea. With all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving the 2026 Subaru Solterra for the last week? Well, as I mentioned, it's been an incredible privilege to drive a vehicle around that people can't buy yet. You know, at the time of filming, this is a brand spanking new automobile, and I messaged my local Subaru dealer and they said, no, we don't even have any in transit yet. So that was relatively cool. But besides that, my own personal achievement, this has been very, very good. Let's do a quick review of Tesla charging, because it's my first time using a Tesla charger. It was good. The charging was very, very reliable and very fast, faster than any Electrify America or ChargePoint or EV Go charger has ever been for me. It was super painless and easy after setting up the app. You do have to set up the Tesla app, you have to add your payment plan, and you have to add a whole bunch of info, so the first time you do it is very annoying. If you buy one of these, set up the app before you go out and need it, because it's very frustrating to try to do in the middle of a parking lot at 10 o'clock at night, blah, blah, blah. The other thing is that I got a lot of weird looks. I don't think Tesla owners are super stoked, excited, or even know that people are gonna start using their charging network in the coming years. So they looked at me, one person came up and said, how are you charging that here? And I said, it has the same plug. And he said, no, isn't that a Tesla only plug? And I said, not anymore. And he kind of scoffed and walked away. So, you know, the biggest thing about this car is the addition of the power and range. More range, more power. And that's a positive movement for the Solterra that was honestly a very lukewarm product at best. Now, with that range and power, this is going to become more competitive. Again, I don't know the price. You could check the pinned comment if there is a price. If I find one out, I will put it in the comment section. At the time of filming, I do not have a price, and the EV tax credit is going away, which will severely impact vehicles like this. But what this feels like is that the training wheels are off. The Solterra pre-2026 was a half-baked car at best. It didn't really excel in anything, it wasn't compelling at all, but it was Subaru dipping their toe, along with Toyota, into the EV market. It was their first full EV product. Now, the training wheels are off, and we're riding on our own. Sure, I don't think this car is ready for the Tour de France. It's not ready for the big leagues. I don't think it's the most compelling EV ever, but it's competitive, where it was not competitive before. And so Subaru and Toyota together have been making these baby steps towards a better and better product. They're learning, they're adapting, and they're changing. People complained about the range. They gave it more range. People complained about the power. They gave it more power. Now they made it easily chargeable at the world's largest EV charging network. So all of this together makes us a lot better. Is this the top dog EV that you have to drop everything to go buy today? No, but improvement is improvement. No matter the size, no matter the time frame, it's better. And that's what I like to see. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Subaru for letting me borrow their Solterra for the last week. Huge thank you to G. Schmitz for facilitating the cleaning and delivery of this vehicle. And of course, the Midwest Automotive Media Association. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.